Thanks everyone for joining us today. I am Adam Kaiser with Sixth Sense, and you are back, hopefully many of you, to Level Up, our webinar series that's been going on pretty much the entire year. And this is the second to last session. So we have one more coming up in January 14th, with the Measuring Your ABM campaign, which is kind of amazing. And I have to say, if many of you, if you've gotten notes or whatever, but the master behind this webinar series, Victoria Squire, who's even hiding right now, has made all of this happen. So as we're coming to an end here, I'm just giving her a shout out. So if you've been to these sessions before, you've seen online, she is the mastermind, the genius behind this. So props to her. I don't know if anyone says props anymore, but anyway, with that, let's dive in. So I am joined by, I have a fantastic, and I was to say co-presenter, but to be honest, Stella is bringing it all. Stella Lee, ABM lead at Mutiny. Stella, you want to introduce to the world yourself?
Hello, everybody. My name is Stella. I lead ABM here at Mutiny, and I'm super excited to share our secret sauce with you all.
And like I said, I am our VP of Brand and Growth Marketing here at Sixth Sense, and we are Mutiny partners, customers. Love Mutiny, use it all the time for a lot of what you're going to see happening. And so we work very closely with the team of Mutiny and are big fans of that platform as well. So for those of you, actually, before I go there, just a couple admin, the session's being recorded, will be shared out later, as well as the deck. So you'll have that to reference for any questions you might have. But for those of you not familiar with Sixth Sense, the company started about 10 years ago, almost 11 now. And our founders came to answer a simple question. Wouldn't sales and marketing be a whole lot easier if you just knew who was looking to buy your product? Now, that is a simple question that is not so simple to answer. And so with Sixth Sense, the ultimate goal here is, and our fancy goal here is to revolutionizing revenue creation. But ultimately, Sixth Sense tells you which accounts are the best fit for you to go after, and if they are the right fit, and how to segment those accounts. When to go after them, meaning when those accounts are actually in market and showing buying signals, and then what part of the journey they may be in, who's on the buying team and who you should contact next, how to contact them, what they care about, and what to say. And now even in the new age of generative AI, even say it for you. So the platform has evolved quite a bit. So, and our partner today, Mutiny, Stella, I will let you.
Yeah, definitely. We love Sixth Sense, by the way. I use it for our ABM paid program, so it has been very helpful for us. So a little bit about Mutiny. So Mutiny is a personalization platform. We can help you build one-to-one personalization for your most important accounts. So we're able to tap into your CRM, identify who your target accounts are, and even pull in some of the data pieces that you want to know about your target account, and turn all of that into a one-to-one personalized experience. We're also able to tell you who's engaging with all your personalized experiences and helping your AEs prioritize who to go after. That's pretty much all about Mutiny. For today's agenda, we are going to talk about why account level personalization. Why should we deploy ABM? Why does it matter? I'm also going to walk through some of the building blocks that are needed for ABM, and also how we measure success in the program. Okay, so let's get started. So the big question is, why account level personalization? So if you're trying to move up market and you're trying to break into bigger enterprises, you're competing with a lot of different vendors. And so you need to stand out. For marketers who do deploy account level personalization or ABM, they're seeing things like 171% increase in ACV, 68% increase in win rate, and 30% more revenue from marketing. And that's because when you're being thoughtful and building personalized experiences for your target accounts, you're really understanding their pain points and their needs and building experiences that would resonate with them. The big challenge, though, with breaking into really big enterprises today is that we have two kind of bad options to work with. The first option is you can build one-to-many campaigns. Things are a little bit scaled, a little bit distilled, and not as personalized. So it feels a little bit more generic, and your sales team might not love it as much. The other side is you have the option of working very closely with sales, building very one-to-one bespoke experiences. That in itself is very hard to scale, and you may find yourself really stretched thin with resources and bandwidth to actually make that happen. So today I kind of want to walk through like how can we have a good balance between personalization and scale. And to do so, I'm actually going to walk through and show our own ABM framework here at Mutiny. So, our ABM framework at Mutiny has three really important pillars. The first pillar is understanding your target account. So, we need to know everything we can about the people that we want to go after. That include things like what is important to this target account, what are their pain points, how do they buy? Things like these are really important. And so we use tools like 6sense, Gong, ChatGPT, and KeyPlay to help us build a 360 view of our target accounts. The second pillar is once you know who you want to target, we need to build tailored experiences just for them. So this can range to a variety of things like one-to-one pages, paid ads, outbound sequences that your sellers can use. The third one, the third pillar, ties the first two pillars together. You know who you want to go after. You've already built experiences just for them. Now we need to get in front of them. So this is all about how do you activate your channels and also your AEs to go after your target accounts. These three pillars may seem like a lot going on. So I'm going to talk through what are the strategies we deploy for each pillar, but also if you are stretched thin or maybe you have a smaller team, how can you also leverage AI to help augment this process for you? Okay, so the first pillar, how do you turn data into actionable insights? Um, when you want to understand who you're going after, there's a lot of information you probably want to look at. You're probably, if you want to know a little bit about the company, you'll probably visit their website and you go to and do a quick Google search. If you want to know if there's any history of engagement, you'll probably look in your CRM. The biggest challenge here is that there's so many data sources that can tell you a bit about the target account. And it becomes a really huge problem of how do you consolidate all this information and turn that into actionable insights for you. Um, this is where actually AI becomes really helpful for us. We like to use AI to help summarize and synthesize a whole bunch of data and provide us information about a target account. So, for example, what I like to do is if I'm targeting a particular enterprise, I like to collect information, whether it's their public information on their 10Ks, maybe their website, reports, even first party data. If a seller had previous conversations with this account before, maybe we have notes of why we lost or maybe what their pain points are. The third one, which is my absolute favorite, when it comes to ABM, obviously I want to build a relationship with my sellers, and so I actually just hop on a phone call with them for like 10 minutes and just have an audio transcript where I ask them questions of who are you targeting? Like, why do you care about this account? What do you know? Obviously, these are three very different types of categories of information. And so, what I like to do is just put it all into an AI bot and just ask AI to help summarize everything that I have. So, that includes things like what is the company's strategic priorities? What kind of products do they sell? What are their risks and challenges? But the biggest outcome at this point is that we end up with a one pager 360 account intelligence of this target account. Um, and we can get outputs of things like what is the company overview, what are the needs and priorities, history of engagement, and any market context. Um, the key thing here is that I don't have to dig through all these different data sources, read everything by myself, and having to piece any information I have together. That type of process can take a really long time, and this is something that I actually did with our AEs before, and it actually like took weeks to actually build out account intelligence for multiple accounts. But this process helped us collapse that process into a couple of days for us. So this process, the one that I showed you at first, is how do we build account intelligence for like more of a one-to-one audience? If you are targeting more like bigger accounts, maybe 20 accounts at once, the process at first where you collect account-specific information, including 10Ks and CRM data or maybe Gong call scripts, can output a really good one-pager account intelligence. But maybe perhaps you're not thinking of doing a one-to-one motion. Maybe you're thinking of doing a one-to-few. Maybe you want to do a cluster of accounts versus one account itself. This process still actually works, and you can adapt it for a one-to-few research motion. Instead of focusing on one particular account, you could also just cluster by specific themes. Maybe you want to go after a specific industry, or maybe you want to go after a specific persona. Then the way that you collect the data is a little bit different. Instead of focusing on one particular like website or 10Ks or CRM nodes, you can probably find common themes across a collection of accounts. Maybe you have accounts, 10 accounts that were of a particular industry. There's a lot of information probably in your CRM, maybe industry reports that you can pull in. And the output of it would just be a one pager of a campaign theme versus a target account page. But whatever the case is, this type of flexibility gives you this one pager that kind of becomes your source of truth, and it helps guide the messaging or even the tailored experiences that you want to build for your target account. Which leads to the next pillar, crafting tailored experiences. You've done a lot of research. You have this one pager that becomes your source of truth. How do you actually turn all of that insight into tailored experiences? And there's so many that you could build. You can build like paid ads, you can build outbound sequences. So there's a lot of things that you could build with the account research. And again, this is where AI becomes really helpful. So what I like to do is with that account research, that one pager, I also like to ask AI to recommend different types of content pieces that I could create. So I can ask AI, based on this account research and everything you know about this target account, what would you recommend I put on a personalized landing page? Or what would you recommend I put in paid ads? What do you think they need to see? And of course, AI can't build 100% everything for you. It's a good way to start off draft. And so what it's really helpful is that it can start a draft and I can actually add more of our brand flavor, adding my own messaging into it. But whatever the case is, the most important thing is that whatever asset I build, it actually reflects back on the account research. So there wouldn't be something that a messaging that's like completely out of the left field. Everything is always grounded in data. And so I'm going to walk you through like an example of a personalized asset that we built for our target account. So this is a page that we built for one of our target accounts and a recommendation that AI had output for us when we had the account research. We like to build one-to-one personalized landing pages, or what we call microsites. And so in this particular microsite, we call out things like the target account's name. We include an image of their website to have a visual view of personalization. We also personalize the logo bar by the company size. The last thing and the most important thing is that we have personalized problem solution statements for this particular account. And everything, all the databases that you see here that's personalized is reflective of the account research that we've done. So including like how big is the company, or maybe what are some problems that we see that we pulled from our CRM or maybe from their 10K. Everything here always stems back from the account research. The really interesting here is that if you actually think about it, the account research kind of becomes this exercise of how do you distill all of that information and transform all of that into different content pieces. And so this landing page is just one example that we can extract from the account research that we've done. I'm going to talk through different other pieces of assets that we've built, but through the lens of distribution. So let's just say that you've built a whole bunch of assets for this particular account and you want to distribute it across all of your target accounts. The thing is, like, you with all these content pieces, you don't want to like throw it out there and hope that something is going to land. You want to be thoughtful of how you stitch that experience together for them. And so this becomes like a problem of like, how do you actually activate all of your channels? How do you get them to speak to one another? And how do you get your AEs involved too? Because that's like one of the core things of ABM. And so one thing that we do in our strategy is that the microsite actually becomes the focal point of our ABM program. One way that we do distribute is with our AEs. And so one of the inputs when we have account research, one of the outputs we ask AI to recommend is what would be a good outbound sequence that we can leverage. And so it becomes like it builds a skeleton for us, but it gives me something I can bring to the AE and be like, hey, we're going to go after this particular account. Do you want to work together? I have a template that we can work off of. And so it becomes this exercise where I work with the AE and refine the messaging a little bit more, but I actually bring in recommended messaging that would work for a particular account. We also arm them with the microsite too, so they can also distribute with them. And that way, this is like a process for where I can build a relationship with the AE, but I'm also bringing value to them as well. The second thing I also do is display ads. So one thing that's really great about display ads is that I can build one-to-one messaging or maybe educational ads. Um, it helps augment and echo the information that the AE is bringing out into the market. And so a lot of times we have ads that is similar to the one that you see here, where it's a one-to-one ad to a particular account and it brings them back to their personalized experience. But that's just not the only ad that we display. If, for example, if the account research tells us that this particular account is more focused on breaking into specific industries, I can pull in playbooks or blog posts to promote to them. Either way, the decisions I make behind the type of ads I display is really based on the account research. The other thing I also do is that I'm pretty sure with all of the paid ads and all of the outbound emails our AEs are sending out, our prospects are going to land on our website at some point. And so what we do is that we actually launch a side pop experience where if someone comes and visits our website, the personalized experience is waiting for them. So we have a side pop that calls out their name and inviting them to reach out and look at their microsite itself. So to zoom out a little bit more, at the end of the day, like we've built all these personalized experiences, but we're also thinking about how to deploy personalization across all of our channels and making sure that they have a focal point and they speak to each other. And so this is how like we pretty much think of how the microsite can be the focal point of our ABM program. The other thing that we also do, and we take it up a little bit of a notch, is we actually like to incorporate personalized experiences into any of our automated follow-ups. So I know like our prospects may engage with a lot of form fills. Maybe they go to our website, they fill out a demo form, but they drop off. Or maybe they fill out a LinkedIn form for us. Whatever the case is, anytime someone does a automated process or they fill out a form, we actually follow up with them with a personalized experience. That way, no matter which touch point they go after, there's always something bespoke just for them. And so it's always whichever touch point they're a part of. We always see that. Okay, so all these experiences we know who we're going after. We've built experiences. We're distributing across all of our channels. The last question is, how do we actually measure success? So for us, there's two things we actually measure. Because the microsite becomes the focal point of our ABM program, we're actually looking at things like how many people actually saw the microsite. We want to know which target accounts are engaging. Maybe there are contacts who are spending more time on the page. This type of analytics help us engage for AEs and help them prioritize who to go after. But at least here at this point, we know who are the most engaged contacts, and we can further personalize and build experiences for them. The second piece is we also look at how have these microsites measured or impacted our pipeline. So we're looking at things of the people who look at the microsite, what were the win rates, what were the pipeline increase, and yeah, so that's pretty much how we measure the success of the microsites in our ABM program. Yeah, but that's pretty much it. That's how we think about ABM here at Mutiny.
Wow. That's I was going to interject, and I was like, I'm not going to interject because this is just too good. So we have quite a few questions to go through, and not quite a few, but a decent number of them. So so let's see, where do we start? The first question, I think you sort of answered it because you have that one-page brief, but it was, do you have a good way of documenting or compiling all the information you gather for your accounts with each of these tools? It's a one-pager, and I assume that sits someplace central.
Yeah. We actually have for us, we use Notion. We have a Notion database of all the accounts that are most important to us. Yeah.
And that, so that actually lives out. There's none of that. Does any of that, I'm curious for myself, that account research get into the CRM as well? Or you said just in Notion?
Yeah. I think we're in a process of figuring out how to get into our CRM. Like obviously if it goes into our CRM, then there's a lot more that we can do with it. So
Yeah. Okay. Um, Next question. So, what timeline do you find realistic for the ABM pilot? And I can answer this too, but answer it first.
Yeah. I think it really depends on what the goals are for your ABM program, and it really kind of depends on your deal cycle too. Because if you have a longer deal cycle, then like the way that you measure success is a little bit different. Um, but for us, like when we started out the process of like doing account research, building experiences, and getting out the door, like I've experienced where like we got something out the door within like 3 weeks or 2 to 3 weeks for us. But I don't know, like maybe Adam, maybe you have a different experience with that.
Well, I was going to say, like for us, when we're working with customers that are implementing Sixth Sense, part of where we start is a pilot can be a particular segment. It could be a vertical. It could be um, a niche subset of accounts. Again, like from a software implementation, there's a certain time period it takes us to get going. But when you think about a pilot, um, I think a couple of weeks are definitely within is realistic, especially if you make it such a specific focus, right? So we've
Mhm.
had customers say like, "Oh, we want to go after manufacturing," and one thing that we'll also do is we'll tie that to a specific AE or BDR or SDR that they're working those accounts in conjunction with the program, which can help A, get it going, and B, help get you to value a bit faster as well. So cool. Next question. Where are you building these one-to-one personalized pages?
Mhm. Mutiny. So we dog food our own product to build these personalized experiences. Yeah.
Great. Next question. We're just flying through here. All right. What kind of AI prompts are you using when asking the AI to distill down the data and asking for campaign strategy ideas?
Yeah. I think it really it goes back to what is your desired outcome? What are you trying to learn about the specific account? So for us, there are several things that we want to learn. So I want to know what is the strategic priorities of this particular account. And obviously, because we target marketers, we go after growth, demand gen, ABM teams. We're also asking like things that are more relevant to that topic. So, like, who are they trying to go after? Like, what are their target accounts? What is stopping them from going after their target accounts? So, you kind of want to put into the context of what does your target persona need to hear and what they want to learn. Um, and so that kind of has been the guiding principle for how we figure out the right prompts to use.
Great. Next question. My team doesn't plan on doing one-to-one right now.
Mhm.
What other ideas and suggestions do you have for one to few?
Yeah. Um, we actually started our ABM program with a one to few motion. So what we did was clustering by themes. And so what I like to do is that sometimes I would just hop on a call with AE and be like, can you tell me like what are some patterns you're seeing in our CRM, like or not CRM, in your deals right now? Is there a particular industry that stands out, or maybe there's a particular persona? Um, and so sometimes our AEs would be like, oh, I've noticed that accounts who have a PLG motion, we tend to win faster with them. Or I've noticed the conversation's a little bit easier. And so what we do is that we actually start building a process and a campaign just for PLG companies. And in that process, if we're thinking about account research, we're looking across all the deals that had a PLG motion and looking through like what the deal notes, where are they talking about, or maybe researching where the problems that they're experiencing. And so it starts out with identifying a theme that is relevant, that has a cluster of accounts that fit within it, and also leveraging all of the CRM notes that we have, engaging with our AEs to do really good account research and refining messaging from there.
Great. Next question. And I didn't plant this question. Can you talk about how you use Sixth Sense in Mutiny and which features you use?
Yeah, definitely. So, um, we use so for Six Sense, we one thing that we did is that we mapped out our entire universe, our entire TAM. And so we're looking at 5,000 target accounts that are ranked tier A and B. And Six Sense helps us prioritize which accounts that are most important to go after first. So there's that like identifying who to go after because there's like the 6QA and all that stuff. The second piece that helps us is paid is one of our main distribution channels when it comes to targeting our most important accounts. And so being able to build segments in 6sense has been really helpful. So for example, if I want to build a campaign for a particular theme, PLG motion, let's just say, I can build a report in Salesforce with that information, sync it over to 6sense, and then use that at the segment to do display ads or maybe even LinkedIn ads for that. Those two have been like the most unblocked for us when it comes to identifying accounts and then also distributing channels to distribute from. And then also like when we do use Mutiny to build personalized experiences, it's also built for that particular segment as well.
Great. Yeah. And, you know, again, the account selection process, I thought I saw a question earlier about a conversation about picking the accounts with sales, and if sales has picked the wrong ones. But again, a lot of, you know, to Stella's point about building out your entire TAM and ICP, and 6sense can really help dial in on who you're actually going after, who your ICP is, which is a big part of obviously this. Because if you're doing all this work and you're not going after the right accounts, then no one's going to be happy. You're going to spend a lot of time.
Yeah.
Next question. This is a good one. For a company that's trying to prove out an ABM concept to be able to purchase things like Mutiny or 6sense, what is the best way to begin an ABM pilot? Are there ways we can create personalized experiences using existing automation software like HubSpot or Pardot? We do use Salesforce as our CRM and have access to ZoomInfo, but I can't prove to the rest of the exec team yet that an ABM approach will work. So I can't yet get the resources to purchase subscriptions to the services. So there's a lot there. I have some thoughts too, but
yeah. Do you want to go first?
Yeah. So it's a really good question again, because at the end of the day, like, technology is not strategy, right? So, you know, you want to buy a tool to accomplish something, but you obviously have to prove it out. So, you know, when thinking about it, you know, the tools that you have, there's a lot you can accomplish, right? So then if you've got a sense of who your ICP is, who you're going to go after, you can select a group of those accounts. Something like HubSpot, especially if your website is hosted in the HubSpot CMS, there are some personalization features that you could potentially use against certain people that are coming to the site that are identified. But again, ultimately, for proving out, before you even get to personalized experiences, just proving out the concept of, okay, we're going to take 20 or 25 accounts. Let's just start there. We're going to learn everything we can, you know, do the account research process that, you know, Stella's process is fantastic. And then start to target those accounts through your available channels, right? So you have access to ZoomInfo, you mentioned as well. So you want to make sure you've got, you know, your buying groups built out. Make sure for all those accounts that you're targeting, you've got who are the key contacts that you would go after and get those kind of built into the account. You can use, again, things like LinkedIn to build your audience. You don't need a tool to do it. You can go through and you can define a list of accounts. I actually believe through HubSpot as well. And just start focusing on those accounts and just track. So start to understand, are there opportunities that are open? And with a small pilot like that, again, if you're working in more of a traditional sort of MQL model, you have to sort of say, look, we're not looking to generate those form fills. I mean, you obviously, if you work on a a target account list and somebody comes to you and raises their hand for whatever product that you're selling and they fill out a form, that's great. But ultimately your measure can be, are these accounts engaging? Is our sales team or our outbound team engaging, and then getting response and opening opportunities against them? So account-based marketing itself has been around for a long time. It's just like starting with a group, creating that focus, creating the process to fill out the account groups from contacts and so forth, and start targeting, and start measuring to see what kind of impact you can have on what you're able to see from a start.
Definitely. I would definitely start out with the resources that you already have. When I started out with ABM, I actually started out with outbound email. So I didn't really have anything. But it was a matter of like identifying themes or clusters and really refining messaging and building out an outbound sequence and just going from there. And so that has helped me as time went by, being able to identify where are the right themes, being able to build out a library of messaging that actually works, and also identifying groups that are more receptive to specific messaging. And so that has like slowly brought in more focus to the program.
Great. A couple other questions. How many people and what roles does it take to execute a one-to-one or one-to-few ABM campaign? Trying to understand the human resources involved to do this.
Yeah, yeah. So I'm an ABM marketer of one at Mutiny, and so like I think it is doable. I would say like having AI to help augment the process is going to be super helpful. Um, it's just a matter of like having good focus. So like if you're focusing on 10 different segments, it's going to feel overwhelming very fast. But if you're focusing on maybe just on two segments and being very thoughtful for those two and building out end-to-end experience for them, I think it's definitely doable. And also like just starting to build relationships with your AEs, like they are such a important asset in the program that I talk to them constantly about messaging and all of that stuff. So definitely doable, I think.
Great. And you were that was the work you were doing, the research. There was a question about you're using ChatGPT for the research and for like gathering up the different sources, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I know there's a lot of tools out there that can help. Like I know like there's like Copy AI or like Clay that can do things at scale. But like even if you're just trying to get a feel of it, like even just using the free version would be really helpful. So
Yeah. And not to be self promotional, but actually, and this is promoting Mutiny as well. I don't know when this was at this point. It's been a while, but Mutiny had their Survive AI
oh yeah,
series. I guess it was that last year.
yes.
Yeah. I did a session on ABM with ChatGPT. So it's
Mhm.
a little old and it's back, lots changed, but we did put some interesting prompts in there around like persona research and some other things that you could do as you're building your ABM strategy. So you could go and check that out as well. So um, okay, so one question I think is more about Mutiny, but the personalized pages would be directed to Mutinies and not on the company's site. I guess it's a tech
No,
question.
it would be directing to your website. So, the way that we personalize it right now is that we're able to take, like, you can think of any web page on your website as a template, and then you can personalize on top of. And so people will be visiting your website and not Munis.
Right. All right. And then how many touch points would you recommend in an ABM pilot? And what would those
Oh,
consist of? That's a good question.
that is a good question. Um, I hate that I always say it depends, but it actually really does depend on like the channels you're deploying. So like for example, if you're doing outbound, it's gonna look very different from paid. So I'll just talk through like maybe for paid, what we like to do is that we like to ship more of like educational ads, so things that are more like playbooks are a good fit for them, or blog pieces that we think is going to be relevant to them. And then we also have another ad, which is a conversational ad that is more of a conversion messaging. So we have those two touch points in the paid ads side. They on the outbound side, I think they usually have like a 5-step sequence. But like we usually have that in combination. But I've seen when I first started out in ABM pilot, like I was just only doing outbound. And I think our sequence was like 3 to 4 steps or 3 to 5 steps, and that was it.
Great. All right. Um, and I will say, just from Six Sense and Mutiny together, not that I want to send 1,000 people her way, but there is a member of our team, Grace, who's on the chat, who is in charge of everything personalization and Mutiny here at Six Sense, and does remarkably good and successful programs as well. So we've worked on inbound programs, outbound programs, all sorts of different things. You could track her down on LinkedIn, but she'll probably kill me if I tell you that, but you could. Anyway, let's just check any questions. So that looks like. Oh, we have a question about agencies that you would recommend. So there's a couple that we work with that are Six Sense partners. I don't know if Mutiny has specific agency partners as well that you guys have put together, but um, I can recommend ROI DNA 2X. There's a couple of international ones that we have as well. So I don't know if there's anyone that you guys have worked with as well.
Yeah, I think those are the ones on top of my mind. But if we connect, I can let you know. I actually don't really know.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. Well, that was it for our questions. Thanks everybody so much for the engagement. As I mentioned, we will get this out to you, recording and slides, and join us in January for, which I still can't believe is our last level of this year-long program. So everyone, thanks so much for joining us, and we'll see you again soon.